It's my joy to join you this evening for the marketplace and, of course, a large extension of the daily report. Karibu sana, it is good to have you as I sit in for our very own Hibak Said. My name is Linda Alela, and as you always know that when we're talking about the marketplace, we literally are talking about money. We literally are talking about the economy, finances. We're talking about taxes, and that's exactly what we'll be doing tonight. I'll be doing this alongside the sign language interpreter. That is Rhoda Nyumai on that side, and I welcome you to be part and parcel of the broadcast as we begin right now. And of course, open the lines as well so that you can interact with us, because that is important. And now, when we talk about all these businesses that revolve around the economy, we do not forget to talk about the Tax Laws Amendment Bill 2024. This is, of course, Kenyan proposed several significant changes, that is, as to the existing tax laws. And so tonight on the marketplace, we ponder on these laws. This as the government continues to target the enhancement of revenue collection, that is simplifying or the simplification of tax compliance, as well as addressing emerging economic challenges. And the bill has, of course, undergone public participation sessions, that is across the different parts of the country. So we look at it tonight, and we also speak to Busia Senator Okiya Omtatah, who has again officially launched his 2027 presidential bid with the establishment of a 10-member committee to steer his campaign. Just what are his chances? Remember, he's also been amongst the few people that have talked about the tax situation in the country and how this can be lessened, of course, a burden for the people. And so as we get to this, we welcome you to the Daily Report tonight. But first, we take a look at the highlights. Tonight, High Court issues orders stopping government from entering into any contract with Adani as the firm seeks to be excused from case filed against them. And Senator Okiya Omtatah launches his presidential bid committee.
Senator Okiya Omtatah announced the formation of his presidential exploratory committee of 7 members, 2 support staff and a patron.
Also tonight, KMPDU has called upon all interns to stay home until government meets their demands after the death of a medical intern in Thika by alleged suicide. And 2023 was the hottest year in 125,000 years.
In 2023, it proved to be one of the 3 most violent last 3 years since 1989.
We have the details tonight. To the broadcast, and we march straight to it, where the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union KMPDU has called for urgent attention to the welfare of the healthcare workers following the tragic death by suicide of Dr. Francis Njuki Gashimo, a 29-year-old medical intern at Thika Level 5 Hospital. Dr. Gashimo was found in his rented house in Kiganjo Estate, hanging from the ceiling, and as Ano Dida now reports, KMPDU has urged medical interns to go home with immediate effect until further notice, while threatening a nationwide strike.
The heartbreaking incident of the death of Dr. Francis Njuki Gashimo has brought to light the immense pressure and challenges faced by medical interns and healthcare workers across the country. Dr. Gashimo, the firstborn in a family of 3 from Gashura in Nakuru County, is being remembered as a dedicated and promising young professional.
This now brings a total number of 2 interns who we've lost in 2 months under the same similar circumstances.
KMPDU has linked Dr. Gashimo's death to the systemic issues within the healthcare sector, which they argue create a toxic working environment for medical professionals. The union has highlighted delayed payments, inadequate mental health support, and overwhelming workloads as key factors contributing to the burnout.
The person who's seeing you, their children have not eaten last night, their house is locked, they have no clothes to change, but they have to still see you and give you the best of care because they want you to improve yourself.
In a statement, KMPDU reiterated its long-standing demands for improved welfare and mental health programs for doctors, especially interns who are often at the front line of patient care. The union has urged the government to honor agreements on timely payment of salaries and to prioritize investments in healthcare workers' well-being. In May this year, the government had promised to resolve this salary impasse within 60 days.
7 months down the line, we are still waiting. 7 months down the line, we are still negotiating.
But we don't wait for those 7 months because we cannot go on strike. We wait because we know that even as doctors are potential patients, and we must always try and be available in the facilities.
The next few days could see a paralysis in the healthcare sector as all intern doctors have been urged to stay at home starting today. Further, KMPDU has announced a pivotal meeting this Saturday, November 30, where doctors from both the public and private sectors will deliberate on issuing a nationwide strike notice in December. If the government fails to meet the union's demands, a total shutdown of health services could take effect as early as next month. Ann Odida, TV47.
All right, and from that unfortunate piece, now tonight the High Court has ordered the government to produce evidence and substantiate President William Ruto's directive that the Adani JKIA deal was indeed cancelled. The directive came after the petitioners, Tony Gashoka, Mount Kenya jurist, among others, said that there is no evidence of cancellation after a directive by President William Ruto during his State of the Nation address, that is Thursday last week. And as Apollo Kamau now reports, the High Court has also blocked any other private entity from taking over the JKIA modernization project.
President William Ruto's directive on the cancellation of the Adani JKIA Ketraco deals last week during the State of the Nation address has now been put to test by the High Court, which has ordered the government to produce evidence and substantiate President Ruto's claims that the JKIA Adani deal was indeed cancelled. A directive welcomed by the petitioners ahead of the hearing and determination of the case on the 29th of January next year.
We don't want people to cancel things and then leave Kenyans with huge burdens, paying compensation where it was not necessary. So we want this matter gone into in greater detail to even get to know who was paid what. It is very important.
The Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, our pride and joy, the project was valued at over 268 billion shillings. We have no doubt, certainly as petitioners in this matter, that over 2.6 billion shillings has already been paid.
The court also dealt the government a blow against rushing with another public-private initiated contract until the matter is heard and determined. The petitioners, Tony Gashoka and Mount Kenya jurist, said there is no evidence to show the deals were indeed cancelled.
What we are saying today to William Ruto, all Adani deals must be dropped.
Yeah.
It's not enough to drop 2 deals, JKIA and Ketraco. We know that Adani is in Shah. In fact, the proper name for that should be Adani Shah. That too must be dropped.
The government's legal team, through lawyer Dennis Mosota, argued there was no contract on the deal as the matter was still in the proposal stage, while the Adani Group said it wanted to be excused from the proceedings as there was no binding contract.
This being a privately initiated proposal, the procurement process was actually at the proposal stage. Yes. And therefore, it suffices to say that there is actually no contract to cancel.
Apart from demanding proof on the cancellation, the petitioners, through their lawyers Kibe Mungai, Kalonzo Musyoka, Dan Maanzo and Eugene Wamalwa, further want those who initiated the deal to be held accountable. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Well, we continue to follow up on that developing story for more updates. Now, just a week after the mediation committee agreed to allocate 387 billion shillings to counties. Another storm is brewing between the National Assembly and the Council of Governors, threatening to stall the release of some 61 billion shillings to devolved units. And as our senior reporter Elizabeth Mutuku now reports, a heated debate was witnessed in today's mediation committee, with members of parliament threatening to ground negotiations with senators on the crucial bill.
No, there's no way you can victimize the National Assembly. No. Honorable, you need to withdraw that. You need to withdraw that statement. Yeah. Honorable, but it is a chance you need to because order.
Just a glimpse of the sitting of the mediation committee in counties allocation. This coming just a week after mediation committee agreed on a 387 million shillings allocation for Division of Revenue Bill 2024-2025. The standoff now threatening to stall the release of 61 billion shillings meant for devolved units. Senate had proposed 61 billion shillings, while National Assembly proposed 46 billion shillings, leading to the formation of the mediation committee.
There have been concerns by Kenyans in regards to the system and registration for SHA. And what has been proposed is that our CHPs will be able to assist in ensuring that people are able to register for this.
Of contention here, honorable chairs, if you're going to be honest with each other, is the RMLF. Now, the council from the National Assembly says the National Assembly dropped the schedule on RMLF. Now, that seems to be the automatic outcome of this mediation, because that RMLF is not available. So that takes care of the problem. That is the elephant in the room.
Governors, there should never be any fight that precipitates anyone taking the other one to court. The roads that are being built are built in Kenya. Community health promoters are Kenyans. So there is no contest.
Members of the National Assembly want the Senate to implore the Council of Governors to withdraw the road maintenance levy fund case at the High Court.
Amount has been mentioned in that court case. It will be prejudicial to this committee and to National Assembly. And the matter, I put it, is so sub judice, unless we don't understand anything that is sub judice for us to go to, for us to proceed. Honorable Kachwang has stated that we can leave the matter of RMLF and proceed to cherry pick the other additional funds.
In the case, the Council of Governors, along with other petitions, has challenged the MPs' move to deny the proceeds of road maintenance levy funds to the county governments amounting to 10.5 billion shillings. RMLF is among the 8 funds provided for in the county government additional allocation bill 2024. However, governors maintained that they will not withdraw the case.
On contention. Putting it aside, what does that mean legally? Will the report say we put aside this money, 10 billion? What does that mean? What does that mean on the 10 billion? Because, you know, government is a revolving door. Government has no stores for money. So this 10 billion, what happens to it?
Other allocations are the payment of community health promoters, county aggregate and industrial parks, constructions of county headquarters for some counties, payment for museum staff, and the proceeds from court fines, mineral royalties. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Liz, for that. Tana River Senator Danson Mungatana has formally withdrawn the Religious Organization Bill 2024. The bill that was termed as punitive sought to introduce taxes on income, gifts, or profits generated from religious organizations, a proposal that was opposed by the clergy, as Samira Mohammed details.
Drafted by the Tana River Senator Danson Mungatana, the Religious Organization Bill of 2024 provided a regulatory framework that sought to introduce taxes on income, gifts, or profits generated from the church was officially dropped today.
I have today, this morning, written a letter to the Speaker of the Senate, the Honorable Amason Jeffa Kingi, to seek a formal withdrawal of the Religious Organizations Bill, Senate Bills number 44 of 2024.
The controversial bill tabled before the Senate by Omtatah on September 2024 was strongly opposed by the clergy, who refer to it as a punitive bill which threatened religious freedoms as regulated by the 2010 Kenyan Constitution. The clergy also said the bill's proposals were an infringement on the religious freedom and under Article 32 of the Constitution.
The withdrawal of the bill paves the way for further decision to determine the appropriate course of action for the remaining legal challenges and related concerns.
The clergy have now formulated a task force comprising of representatives from all registered bodies and relevant stakeholders to develop a comprehensive framework to ensure religious institutions are transparent, accountable and faithful to the spiritual mission.
Tusikiliza na akaona kuna umuhimu wa kwanza kurudi kwa kanisa, tutengeneze kitu itakubalika nchini Kenya na makanisa yote na watu wote. Na hivyo ndivyo tumefanya kwa moyo wa rais ambaye alisema na kanisa ijifanye self-regulation. Hivi ndivyo tunafanya.
To address concerns raised by the proposed legislation, the religious leaders announced the formation of a self-regulatory task force comprising of representatives of umbrella organizations and key stakeholders.
Tutaunda bill ambayo tutawasilisha kwa bunge iliyo nzuri ambayo inatubeba sisi wote, kila mmoja asikie yuko hapo, vile tutaweza kufanya self-regulation. Na tumesema tutatembea na Mheshimiwa Omtatah kwa sababu ako na idea ya vile tunaweza tengeza mswada ulio mzuri.
This comes barely 2 weeks after the Kenyan Conference of Catholic Bishops' Catholic joint statement castigating Ruto's government for what they called deeply entrenched culture of lies, corruption, unfulfilled promises and misplaced priorities, a statement that was backed by the Anglican Church of Kenya. Samira Mohammed for TV47, Nairobi.
Thanks, Samira. Now, 4 members of the Moi University Council are expected to appear before the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC to provide information regarding 11 projects and alleged embezzlement involving 2.2 billion Kenyan shillings. Charles Rasugu, EACC's North Rift Regional Manager, indicated that through a letter, the individuals will be questioned about a number of projects, as Ruga Ival details.
Dr. Njuguna and Professor Clara Momanyi were scheduled to appear before the commission, but the session was postponed due to a meeting with the Minister of Education for the council. The interrogation for these two have been rescheduled for December 3rd. On Thursday, Charles Obiero and Isaac Memose will appear before the commission and will be grilled regarding the 2 Kenyan billion shilling scandal, along with 11 projects listed by the commission, where EACC says interviews will assist in the ongoing investigation. The commission, through its North Rift Regional Office, is undertaking inquiry into allegations of corruption and procurement irregularities by officials of Moi University in relation to the proposed construction of School of Public Health, Dentistry and Nursing for a total sum of about 726 million Kenyan shillings, the proposed construction of a library phase 2 at Annex at a cost of 1.1 million Kenyan shillings, the electrical installation works for the proposed school construction above at a cost of 148 million Kenyan shillings, and the proposed construction of plumbing, drainage and firefighting systems for the school PDN, a tender which became non-responsive. Others include the proposed construction of Library Phase 2 at Annex Campus electrical installation works that cost them 169 million Kenyan shillings. The proposed construction of a Library Phase 2 at Annex Campus, that is its plumbing, drainage and firefighting, a tender which became non-responsive. The proposed construction of a Library Phase 2 at Annex Campus mechanical ventilation and air conditioning installation works, a project that cost them 35 million Kenyan shillings. Moi University has been facing long-standing financial challenges, with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission announcing that 63 individuals are under investigation for alleged embezzlement of funds at the institution. Among those implicated is Vice-Chancellor Professor Isaac Osgei, who has already provided a statement to the EACC.
In relation to corruption in our universities, it is true that corruption and unethical conduct have found their way into our universities, and this is compromising and threatening the quality and the standards of higher education in the country.
The council has, however, emphasized their commitment to finding solutions to the financial difficulties that have plagued Moi University for an extended period. Ruga Eval, TV47.
Now, President William Ruto has directed the National Assembly to increase budgetary allocation for the Kenya Innovation Agency to 500 million Kenyan shillings and in the financial year 2025 to 2026. This as he aims to bolster innovation and in turn churn out more job opportunities as he delivers on his campaign pledges. Sheila Chelangat with that report.
While attending the 4th edition of the Kenya Innovation Week, President William Ruto called for creation of sustainable enterprises to create more job opportunities in the country. Startups in the country have earned recognition globally, with the country leading in startup funding that attracted $437 million in 2024, according to data from the Kenya Innovation Agency.
Innovation can no longer be a discretionary consideration. Rather, it is now an indispensable component of efforts to promote inclusive growth and uplift the well-being of the majority of our citizens.
Hence, the President's proposal of increasing budgetary allocations to the agency to 500 million Kenyan shillings in the coming financial year in a bid to boost the innovation ecosystem in the country.
I'm going to be proposing to Parliament 500 million for Kenya Innovation Agency and $1 billion shillings for Startup Fund.
With the call for the government to address the high rate of unemployment still loud, the President once again has highlighted the need to develop talent and embrace university-led research.
It takes concrete decisions and policy frameworks to create jobs.
Instead of using Facebook, Twitter, and social media to engage in hatred, to engage in, so unnecessary wars and so forth, just think who came up with this idea and how much money is this person making?
All these efforts are in a bid to position the country as an innovation leader and at the same time boosting economic growth. Sheila Chelangat for TV47.
The government has halted the recruitment process of job seekers abroad that was being conducted by the Ministry of Labour to fast-track the processing of the already selected applicants. Speaking after overseeing the exercise at the Nyandarua National Polytechnic, Labour Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua said that the pronouncement was necessitated by the need to take stock of the progress so far and also align with the recruitments of the recruiting agencies and the needs of the job seekers. Mutua further said that the recruitment will resume on December the 12th.
We are going to take a small break from continuing with the recruitment process. We are taking a short break so that we can do some stock taking, a bit of reorganization of the processes from what we've learned, and also be able to process whatever we have gotten now so that people can go overseas. Because the same agencies that are coming with me are the same ones that need time in the office to process your documents, get you your air tickets, get you your interviews. So we are halting this session so we can realign properly the sessions that are going to come forward. Therefore, tomorrow we are not going to Kakamega, as we have said, so we are stopping for now, for a short time, so that I can hold a meeting with all the parties concerned, so that I can make sure the passports are coming out, certificate of good conduct is coming out, so that I can push for that processing, so that it can be done before we resume. I'm also taking a break because we need to realign with the members of parliament and also governors.
Busia County Senator Okiya Omtatah has launched his 10-member Secretariat Committee that will lead his 2027 presidential bid. However, the senators stressed that a source of money is the least problem that his team has and that they are depending fully on ordinary Kenyans to bring change.
My focus is not going to be diminished. And I'm not one who walks away from a fight. I know there's a fight to dislodge President Ruto from power. And that's a fight I'm going to take on to see that come 2027, this country is put under a different leadership. We are going to show a relationship between our failures as a country and our failure to uphold the rule of law, and especially the Constitution. And we have had a problem with the campaign financing. In this particular case, we are going to depend on ordinary Kenyans to be the ambassadors of this change. And already there are indications that the Kenyans are going to do whatever they will do in their small spaces to make sure that this change happens.
I don't think Okiya is the face of the Gen Z movement by me being in this committee. Okiya reflects with all of us Gen Z. Whatever it is we are fighting for and whatever it is he's been fighting for. So he reflects with our desire and our fight for a better Kenya.
Yes, and Senator Okiya Omtatah will be speaking to shortly, just to get to understand some more on what this means for him, for the people of Busia, because then they are eagerly waiting to see just how much more he is going to deliver for them as their senator, but most importantly for the people of Kenya. And so before we get to that session with the senator, allow us to take a quick short break. I think it's important that we shift, pay some bills, and then we come back with so much more on that, as well as that interview on the tax amendment bill after this break.
Act now. Learn, speak out. Support the movement during this 16 days of activism. Together, we can end gender-based violence.
As we mark 16 days of activism, Cape Media Limited reiterates its commitment to raise awareness and advocacy efforts against gender-based violence. Join us in this movement.
Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome. I'm here to stress on education.
Our customers at Naivas are the heartbeat that drives us forward. A heartbeat that's in the joy of unboxing new electronics. The smiles that every Naivas bag brings. Step inside our stores and feel the vibe of quality in each corner and variety in every shelf.
Uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Jabsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu. This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph,
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm, which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair in the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
All right, the marketplace, it is on Daily Report. Karibu sana, we go straight to some more. In recent years, the world has faced devastating impacts of climate change, that is including intense drought and unpredictable rainfall and increased temperatures. The worsening climate crisis will severely impact the health of millions of people in the East African region, where cases of infectious diseases, waterborne disease, and non-communicable diseases were on the rise. Elizabeth Atieno now reports on the details of this.
Did you know that in 2023, the Earth witnessed the hottest temperatures in over 125,000 years? The average global temperature was 14.98 degrees Celsius. And now, Medicines Sans Frontiers, MSF, projects that by 2030, the world might experience over 10 million large-scale disasters on a weekly basis. The extreme weather events have been brought about by the effects of climate change.
It's already reminded that in 2023 it proved to be one of the three most violent last 3 years since 1989.
2023 also recorded the highest number of internally displaced persons of over 79 million, 45 million being new cases. This highlights the magnitude of forced displacements exacerbated by climate change and conflict.
It's also record numbers of highest interventions of our outpatient consultations at over 16 million. It's the highest 60% growth since the last 4 years.
Refugees are finding themselves on the front line of the climate crisis, despite contributing almost nothing to the carbon emission fueling climate breakdown.
In the same year, there were multitude outbreaks in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, which also led to multiple food insecurities. And now there are over 700,000 cases of malnutrition, which have been tripling annually. In Baringo County, for instance, MSF screened over 46,000 children for malnutrition in 2024, where it was established that 30% suffered from acute malnutrition, while 8% were severely malnourished. The health sector has not been spared from the devastating humanitarian crisis witnessed in 2023.
Non-communicable diseases were over 200,000 that we're seeing.
There have also been increased cases of waterborne diseases, disruption of food systems, increase in zoonotic diseases, vector-borne diseases, mental health impact, and damage to health infrastructure.
40% of people below the poverty line are in conflict areas. By 2030, 2/3 are going to be.
Over 1.6 billion people globally have been affected by disasters over the last 5 years. Over 5% of GDP in Africa is lost due to the effects of climate change. In a bid to address this, 27% of climate change funding in 2022 went to adaptation. But humanitarian organizations maintain more funding needs to be put in place to bridge climate, conflicts, and humanitarian needs. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47.
Well, interesting report right there. And of course, it's pretty much a chilly one and a cold one in 2024. But all in all, it's all in this conversation of climate change as well as global warming. And we're constantly reminded of the importance of us taking care of the environment just so it can take care of us. And I think, like we say, this is the marketplace and business is our business. So let's take a look at some more on that. Okay, to eat and tourism continues to boom in the coastal region with a 21.3% increase from the same period last year. At least 102 operators from the neighboring country of Uganda are touring the coast region for 1 week with aims to come up with a common package to market the two countries as a tourism destination globally. And this comes at a time when at least 70 Kenyan tourists or tourism stakeholders visited Uganda for the same purpose. Meanwhile, Uganda is the second source of tourists to Kenya after the United States, with at least 202,000 Ugandan tourists visiting the country in 2023. Additionally, the Open Border Initiative and direct flights from Mombasa International Airport to Entebbe are the core reasons for the increase in numbers.
In the coast region in the next 1 week. And we are hoping that we'll be able to engage as business people. We have engaged the county governments and particularly key marketing agencies, including Kenya Tourism Board, to be able to see how we can put together packages and how we can enhance the cooperation between the two countries.
Kenya is our biggest source market, so we are trying to see how we can be able to farm up the partnership and the coordination and the cooperation between the two countries, especially in the tourism industry. We coined a phrase from the bush to the beach, bush to beach, and so we want a guest who comes to East Africa. We are East Africans. Personally, I'm so proud to see that I am in Mombasa, not using a passport, but using my national ID.
We are here to see how we can partner and cooperate and sell East Africa as one destination. I want to request the Kenyans, I want to call upon all the Kenyan tour operators that bring the tourists to Uganda. You'll not be disappointed. Uganda Airlines has scheduled flights throughout the week, so it is easy for Ugandans to fly into the coast and also the coastal people to fly to Uganda. Like my colleague said from Uganda, it is from the bush to the beach. From the beach to the bush.
Now with the direct flights from Mombasa to Uganda, it is very easy for us to connect our packages together and do the gorilla trekking for repeat clients who has always been wondering they wanted to do it. Now it is possible.
As they say, from the bush to the beach, from business to sports.
Sports news brought to you by Maybet.
Well, the many times that bumper gets me feeling like dancing. Anyway, the 14th edition of the Kipchumba Karori Eldoret International Volleyball Tournament, which is scheduled to take place, that is from the 13th to the 15th December 2024, is officially launched, and this happened earlier today. Now, the competition seeks to nurture and grow volleyball talent, and over 80 teams comprising of elite support primary schools, secondary schools, and colleges will feature in the championship. Uganda and Rwanda will also send their top clubs in the annual event. TV47 and Radio 47 are among the main sponsors, and the winners in both men's and women's category, of course, will bag $500,000 shillings.
From Mount Kenya University, we are happy to partner with the Kipchumba Karori Eldoret International Tournament. We are looking forward to be there. We are the people who take people to Germany to work there, and we are also taking people to the cruise ship through our Malindi Maritime Academy.
Allow us inject some new energy and impetus in the Eldoret International Volleyball Tournament, noting that that is the home or the reservoir of the volleyball talent. The Western region for a very long time has been the home or the hub of the talent. So if the activity on volleyball goes down at home, it means nationally the standards of volleyball are diminishing. So I'm very proud to be associated with all these brands. And as a former amateur volleyballer, I am at home.
So you can imagine how it has attracted. And Mheshimiwa, our patron, he has given orders to all the wards in Eldoret or in Wasingishu to participate. So out of these 40, we still have 30 teams which Mheshimiwa amesema lazima participate kwa tournament.
Athletics Kenya President Lieutenant Retired General Jackson Tuwei earlier today inspected the preparations of the Great Chipsite cross-country run at Chipsite Secondary School in Tarbo, Wasingishu County. The AK Supremo was impressed by the steps made so far as the venue of the race, which will take place on the 7th of December. Over 10,000 athletes from 15 countries are expected at the second edition of the competition. Schools in the area will receive 10 million shillings worth of scholarships. And in addition to the 6 million shillings cash prize in the different categories, Chipsite Secondary School is currently getting a 70 million shilling facelift from M-Pesa Foundation. A free medical camp will be conducted on the 2nd of December in the same area.
Tulikaa katika ile mazingara ya kutafuta, na wakati mwingine yule anatafuta anasahau wale hawajaweza kufaulu katika maisha. Sasa mimi ni sambuli ya wale wakienda wanarudi kusaidia nyumbani. Hiyo ndipo inanipatia mawazo ya kuona ya kwamba wengine wakifaulu mimi nimefaulu. Mimi nilikuwa wale watu ambaye walisaidiwa kuona mbele. Na mimi sasa nafasi yangu pia kusaidia wengine wapate kuona mbele na waende mbele.
The Elite 16th round of the Basketball Africa League will begin on Thursday at the Nyayo National Gymnasium in Nairobi County. The competition consists of a round-robin format where teams will play a combined 16 games. The top 2 teams from both groups will advance to the semi-finals, where the winners will seal automatic qualifications into next year's Continental Showpiece. Yes, the host, Nairobi City Thunder, will kick off their campaign at 8 p.m. on Thursday when they take on MMB of South Africa. The first 2 match days will be played at the Nyayo Indoor Arena, while the remaining fixtures will be staged at the Kasarani Indoor Arena.
Preparation are in top gear, as you can see. Team have arrived. We have been in Kasarani. Kasarani is well taken care for days 3, 4, and 5. But tomorrow the games will be here at Nyayo National Stadium, and we are ready for the games.
To be honest, is a little bit tricky. We are not expecting to play on a concrete, and because we have some players with some old injuries, that this kind of floor. I mean, we gotta play, we gotta fight, and we gotta do the best that we can. But this kind of floor is a little bit rough to the players, to the injuries, and for sure it's going to be completely different games that we were expecting.
Good. I mean, after a long travel, we finally got everyone back here. We have one more player that will arrive tonight, but I mean, the hospitality has been great. You know, the Kenyans have been very nice here. And all the treatment that we had, and from the hotel and the accommodations, and everybody's been very, easygoing, very hospitable.
Shabana FC registered their 3rd win in a row after defeating AFC Leopards 2-1 in the Football Kenya Federation Premier League match played at Sogigusi Stadium in Kisii County. The hosts took the lead in the first half through Brian Mishira, who got a brace, and the visitors pulled 1 back seconds before the interval. However, Torre Bob went on to clinch maximum points. Elsewhere, Tusker FC stunned newly promoted Mara Sugar 2-1. Gor Mahia defeated 10-man Kakamega Homeboys 2-0, and Posta Rangers beat Bidco United 3-1, while Talanta FC defeated Ulinzi 1-0.
Sports News brought to you by Maybet. Two interviews, basically what we're left with before we call it a day. Very, very important conversations that revolve around what interests you and me. One is that of Senator Okiya Omtatah, who says that he wants to be your president. He wants to be my president. Just how capable is he? We'll be asking him that tonight. But as well, the Tax Law Amendment Bill 2024. That one, our lives revolve around. Allow us to pay some bills and then we come back straight to that.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents, zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
You're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge
Senator Okiya Omtatah, that is the Busia Senator, thank you so much for creating time to be with us, and congratulations on unveiling your 10-member committee that will help you steer the progress on your campaign bid. Would you paint a picture of what this means to you and for the people of Kenya briefly?
Well, basically, our country is at a crossroads. And so I've decided to step forward and see if I can be part of the solution. And to do that, I've decided to do it in a scientific manner, get some people to help me gauge the viability of my candidature, and if there are any challenges, to help me overcome those challenges so that I can have a campaign that will end up in victory. So basically, the exploratory committee is supposed to explore the landscape and do a viability test and see what are these challenges that are there to block my candidature, and if they can be overcome, we overcome them.
All right. The challenges that are playing out in the country, could this be the reason why you are seeking to bring this change as the president, or you have envisioned Okiya Omtatah presidency from the word go?
No, I'm just feeling that there's this challenge that we now have whereby there's need for a leadership that believes in the rule of law. If you look at it, since the day we got, people said the constitution was going to be the solution, the new constitution. It came, but there's been reluctance to implement it. If you look at the question of public finances and how public finances are in a mess, you find that it is as a result of disregard for Chapter 12. Mm-hmm. Everything is laid out in the Constitution, but we are not following it. So I want to come out and offer leadership that is based on constitutionalism and the rule of law, to fully implement the Constitution and then rally the country towards an agenda, economic and social reforms, that should convert our resource base, our resources, both the human and natural resources, into wealth. And target I have is to see if we can come up and rally ourselves as Kenyans to a point whereby we can move our per capita income from about 1,900 USD to 30,000 or so USD. So basically that's the agenda I have, and I think when I look around, when you hear of all these Adanis, all these scandals or whatever, we can never develop this country at that rate. Mm-hmm. We will need to go back and reset this country and make public office be fully for service, and those who want to become rich should go and look for enterprise elsewhere, mm-hmm. not in politics.
All right, and in your capability.
So that's what basically I have in mind, and I think it is something that needs to be done.
Great. In your capability, you have done so much towards, this business of resetting the country and making it better. The gentlemen that I have with me in studio appreciate that, and they say indeed you have done a good job. In your work of what some would consider as activism, others would say is a business of litigation and petitions at the level of courts. There's been allegations that there's always a team backing you up. There's always some people who sponsor you. How much different for this presidential bid? Would you say that there's someone that is behind you that perhaps would sponsor and would help you walk the journey, or it is out of your own volition?
Well, basically it's out of my own volition. I don't think a presidential bid is what somebody can send you into, because it's an insurmountable, it's a very, fairly challenging endeavor. First of all, realize that at a personal level, I'll be relinquishing my grip on the Senate seat of Busia, so I've got that cost I have to pay, because in this country you cannot run for 2 seats. So I'll have, if I'm going for the presidency, automatically I have to relinquish my grip on the Senate of Busia come the 2027 at the 2027 elections. So I'll not be defending that seat at that election. Although I'll continue serving, I'll serve for my term. But I'll not be able to defend it. So these are the kind of considerations you make, and you have to leave your comfort zones and get out on a warpath. And this one, I'm doing it because I've got conviction that unless we intervene at this time, the current regime is likely to run us into hell. If you look at right from the Jubilee government to now the Kenya Kwanza, when you look at how they have behaved in questions of public finance, they have been a total disaster. For example, our public debt has been growing exponentially with nothing to show in corresponding development. So for me, I believe that I have an obligation to step forward and be the change I want to be. And there's no better position than to where I say the problem is in the presidency. Because if our president was to become the chief czar against corruption, that vice would be struck out of this country. If our president was to set out and implement the constitution, the promise of the constitution would be given to this country. Instead, they are very busy trying to change the law. They are trying to do this radical thing. They are trying to say the constitution is bad, that it's limiting them. They want to play around with it. And that's basically where the problem is. So you need somebody who believes in total implementation of the constitution, the way I do, to implement the constitution, and then to set out economic reforms that will be able to institute proper fiscal discipline, and out of that proper fiscal discipline, unleash the money that is usually wasted, stolen, and squandered, to put it into social programs for education, for public transport, for food, and for health, public health.
All right.
You see people talking of universal health care, and they want to run it on the basis of premiums and not on the basis of main taxes being financing health.
Okay.
Yet we have signed the Abuja declaration that requires us to commit about 15% of our GDP, of our budget, not GDP, but of our budget to health. We are not doing that. Instead, we are getting the Adani is coming in, and a similar chief and whatever, being turned into scams that we cannot succeed. You find that the health sector is really now depending on the private sector. You can't run universal health care on the private sector. You must build your hospitals to provide adequate and accessible health care, so that then you can be able to create access to medication or to health care. So there are a number of things that need to be done, but the anchor is the Constitution and the rule of law. We must implement that Constitution 100% to realize its promise, and that's when we can be able to then move forward as a people. Instead, we are getting the Adani is coming in. When we sing the national anthem, we are singing the national anthem of Kenya.
All right.
Today, when you sing the national anthem, you are singing a national anthem of a country that is not Kenya.
Well,
that's how bad things are.
And of course, we're looking forward to see the change that you say or you propose to bring. I am certain that you have been amongst the Kenyans who've challenged, early campaigns, of course, with previous regimes, with previous leadership and all that. Especially because then early campaigns are considered to be, one of the deterrents to development. And so how will this then affect, your contribution or your work to the people of Busia? And basically, the question of devolution in Kenya at large, now that you're a senator.
No, I don't think I'm going to engage in what you call early campaigns. The issue is that where the country is sitting right now, we cannot let what is happening continue unchallenged. Number two, by setting this committee up, I'm conscious of the fact that I have a job to do as the Senator of Busia, and I'm assuring you very soon you'll be seeing the consequences of some of the work I've been doing in Busia to make sure that the public funds are not stolen by rogue leaders. So there will be no contradiction. What we are not going to begin engaging in is early campaigns in the name of holding rallies, but preparing for an election, like to begin preparing for voters to register, beginning to prepare for people to take IDs, beginning to prepare, like we must campaign and make sure that the elections for president terminate at the constituency. We don't want any elections taken to Bomas. The Constitution is clear in Article 138, Clause 2, that where more than one candidate is cleared to contest for the presidency, an election shall take place in each of the 290 constituencies. This idea that the election continues to take place in Bomas has to stop. That's how we end up with presidential elections that are not conclusive. Even you saw in the US the other day, they have got states which are similar to our counties. You see the elections ended in the states. The formal announcement of the leader will be in January. But already we know that President Trump has been elected. Equally, for us, we want on election day to know who the winner is. Then we can wait for the IBC to make the declaration some 10 days later, performing some form of ritual, a formality. But the real election, the real contest must end in the constituency the way the Constitution provides for it.
All right.
This issue that came up that you have got a presidential returning officer created not even in the Act of Parliament, not in the Constitution, but in regulations must be stopped. I know the courts have endorsed it, and that's why we must take it back to the streets and override what the courts have done by undermining the Constitution. In the Maina Kiai case, the courts undermined the Constitution in the sense that they allowed that presidential thing to be there. Right now you have had people saying they were talking about transmission of results being banned electronically and what have you. If we terminate these things at the constituency, this transmission of whatever will not be there.
All right.
Even TV47 will call that election for us, will tell us this election has gone this way or that way, or there's no winner and therefore there will be a runoff. We don't have to wait for the IBC, because the IBC results that will be in each of the 290 constituencies can be taken up by anybody, added, tabulated, then you can do that whether somebody has received the 25% threshold.
All right.
Or somebody has also received the 50+1 threshold, +1% threshold. And that is how, for me, we must get these elections conducted. So one of the major things we have to do, we have got the question of registration of IDs of new voters.
Okay.
There's the question of registration of voters, IDs for new voters, then registration of new voters, then determination of elections at the constituency. We don't want bombers to be there, and at the next elections, there will be no bombers and there will be no Chebukattis of this world.
Interesting.
Playing games with the minds of Kenyans.
Interesting, and I want
That's how we're going to have it, and we will have the election called on election day by the media.
All right, fair enough. I want us to treat this ones. We'll be having another session with you so we get into the details and the nitty-gritty details of this. But allow us to treat
so it
the
will
next
not be a
question.
campaign. I wanted to clarify, it will not be a campaign, but you need to prepare for a proper campaign.
Okay. All right. The other questions, I want us to treat them as quick fire questions. Then. Do you see yourself gaining, momentum and, that love from the people of Kenya? And number two, are we foreseeing a scenario where you're going to have alliances? Because, I mean, ours has been more of, an alliances kind of approach to elections and all that. Are you intending to go it alone all the way, or we will see you forming alliances with the likes of, I don't want to give you names, but I could mention maybe Kalonzo Musyoka, who's out there, of course, declaring
But
himself.
I think where I am right now is beginning. We want to build a vehicle with like-minded people.
Yeah.
A vehicle that can win the elections without an alliance. That's what we want to go out for. But there's also real politics when it gets there.
Yeah.
But it will have to be an alliance of ideas, not alliance of individuals. If we cannot get an alliance of ideas, we shall go alone. But if we get an alliance of ideas, then whoever is better, once the ideas have been put on the table, whoever is better to implement those ideas will be given the mantle. We will not make an alliance just for the sake of winning the presidency.
All right.
The presidency must be a clearly cut agenda. So those who agree with that agenda and the program that we are building, we shall be able to form alliances with them. Because our program is total implementation of the Constitution, rule of law, and the creation, the total fiscal discipline according to Chapter 12 of the Constitution. And our focus in implementing the Constitution, we are going to look at our focus is Chapter 10, Article 10 of the Constitution. We are looking at Chapter 4 on the Bill of Rights. We are looking at Chapter 6 on integrity and leadership. We are looking at Chapter 7 on the elections. And we are looking at Chapter 12 on public finances. Those are the key focuses we are going to have when we look at implementing the Constitution, because we believe, me and my team, that if those are implemented, the Republic of Kenya will be restored and will stop being something that we cannot identify.
All right. What are the chances of President William Ruto in 2027, bearing in mind that he enjoys incumbency, and as well just looking at the kind of anger that you say Kenyans have towards him, and also speak to the fact that this is an expensive bid. You say that money is not really much of a problem. How can you convince us that that is the case?
We are not selling, we are not buying votes. We are rallying behind Kenyans to achieve a destination, to arrive at a destination they desire. The people go out to buy votes, and some of this money, you are being told, is money that is used to corrupt election officials and things like those. We are going to get Kenyans to say that the elections are going to terminate at the constituency. We are going to have campaigners who are running for seats in the various constituencies. I've had my own experience when I ran for the senatorial seat in Busia. I did not have money and people dismissed me. I ran against people who had a lot of money. But I was able to do a civic education campaign, an information campaign that informed the people, and they came out and they gave me their votes. I even got votes from areas I had never reached. That's the kind of thing I want to replicate on the national scale, to let people understand the promise of the Constitution and rally them to go and get that promise for themselves. It's not a question of money. And even those who are boasting about money, they will have to tell us where that money is coming from.
Okay.
It's not just a question of people floating money. These are people who steal from the public and they come to confuse the public. So if you have a lot of money, for heaven's sake, you'll have to tell us where you have gotten that money from.
Okay.
Otherwise, it will not be business as usual.
All right. And I know we asked what are the chances of President William Ruto, but allow me to also allow the gentleman here. We at least, change
I think President Ruto should worry about his chances. I will not worry about his chances for him.
Okay, fair enough, Senator. 2 questions from the gentlemen in studio who are Kenyans as well, and my guests tonight. They have a question, at least each for you. 30 seconds. Is there anything you would want to tell him or perhaps ask him?
Yes.
Yes.
We'll begin with you, yes.
Yeah, definitely. So, Senator, you've been quite active in terms of finances, and we saw you in Finance Bill 2024, Finance Act 2023 at the Supreme Court. So what is your plan to raise revenue? Because any budget, any government will need a budget, and that budget needs to be financed. And one of the sources, of course, is taxes. So what's your approach to that?
My approach to that is that taxation is a necessary evil and is allowed in the Constitution because government must raise money to function. But we must have balanced budgets. You remember, I began engaging the finance bill in 2018, not 2023, 2018. There was this time when you could have, around budget time, goods disappear from markets. Then once the budget is read, they come back with new and higher prices. I went to court and fought that thing because I argued that you cannot tax Kenyans without the approval of their representatives. The courts upheld that, and that's what resulted in the amendment of the Public Finance Management Act to introduce Section 39A, which then talks about the finance bill and how it's supposed to be processed through Parliament. So then going ahead, I've been fighting that taxation, we must have a budget that shows us both the revenue estimates and also the expenditure estimates. There's no point having a budget that only discloses expenditure estimates and no revenue estimates. So I want to do a balanced budget. I also want to cut out this borrowing outside the budget. Like recently I've been seeing the president receiving a lot of loans from the IMF. They are not in the budget, they are nowhere, and that's not good. So the issue really is not so much on the side of taxation, but more so on the side of what those taxes are intended for. So we want to get budgets that are not padded with corruption. We want to get budgets that are within our means, and we want to have all the borrowings that the government engages in to be in the Appropriations Act. These things of domestic borrowing, you borrow domestically when you are not, with nothing attached to what you are borrowing to do, has to stop. So fiscal discipline for me is very, very important. But as a way of raising revenue, taxation remains the ultimate tool that any government has. But the taxation must be responsible. Right. We're not going to tax people to a point of reducing them into poverty. And also taxes are not going to be the means for developing the country. We must allow enterprise and innovation and come up with incentives that allow Kenyans to save. It's only by Kenyans saving and creating a capital base that we shall be able to invest and develop this country. Right. That's why one of the things we want to do is to have a sovereign fund. When you go to Article 201, Clause C, it requires the budget, when you spend the budget and whatever, to think about future generations. That anticipates a sovereign fund whereby at least we save a percentage of our revenue, be it from the budget or from the mineral resources, to be able to secure something for the future. And if possible, build this fund to a point whereby Kenya can become a net lender and not a borrower.
Fair enough, Senator. Fair enough.
So we must avoid predatory loans. Yes.
These ones are tax experts. I hope they are convinced with that. But like we say, the conversation continues. That is Alex Kanyi, tax expert, CDH Kenya. We also have Kiplimo Kigen, Head of Policy Research and Advocacy. That is KNCC, Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Quick question, and Senator, let's make the response tight.
Thank you, Linda. Mhesh, congratulations on launching of the bid. I think Kenya's private sector would be interested to know what you'd have in store.
Thank you very much, Ndugu. I hope you'll support me.
Hopefully. Definitely. Mhesh, Kenya's private sector is interested to see what your plan is in as far as business competitiveness is concerned. our competitiveness in export, in production, in attraction of investment, competitiveness in general?
Yes, and what we are doing is that we are going to reach out to your sector to help us develop a coherent policy framework that we need to implement on day one to unlock the potential that Kenya has as a manufacturing or a productive economy. So we want to look at those things, including banking, whether the laws governing our banking are adequate for production or not. We have the costs of energy. What kind of tax regimes do we have? Do we have a tax regime that is geared towards production, or do we have a tax regime that is geared towards stifling production? So we need to do that, and we are going to sit down. And one of the things this committee have done is to sit down with groups like yours and be able to develop a coherent policies. We want to develop a policy, an ideological and policy framework. But ultimately, what you sing in the national anthem is our target. That productive land, that land that is prosperous, that land that is ruled by law, where justice is the defense of everybody, that is our ultimate destination. And enterprise for us is the key thing. But also, we fully realize that in a political economy, the primary force is not the market, but political action. Because that political action can also help unlock the market. There may be decisions the market requires to be able to move forward, our producers and all that. So we will get together with you people and develop a policy framework and move forward. So at the end of the day, being president is like being a captain of a big ship. So we want to build a proper vehicle that can take Kenya out of what we are, and our target of moving the economy from per capita of 1,900 USD to 30,000 USD is fully anchored on the backs of our entrepreneurial sector.
All right.
The manufacturing sector, the productive sector. But there's also the extractive sector, the minerals in this country. The extractive sector must also play its role, and we must come up with proper taxes on that sector and regularize that sector, do a complete resource map of the country, and then see how we can tap those resources to convert them into wealth in the pockets of Kenyans. That's what we must do.
Senator, I think we close it at that point, lest someone rushes to court and they say that the senator has already begun his campaigns. Asante sana. We see a Senator Okiya Omtatah, who's launched his presidential bid, as well as unveiled his secretariat and the committee, 10-member committee that will oversee this bid. Asante sana. We're looking forward to more engagements in relation to just what then we need to do as a country, and of course the leadership that we need to steer us forward. Allow us to take a quick short break, and then we come back with the money market.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side. We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury.
Again, the gentleman, Alex Kanyi, tax expert, CDH Kenya, as well as Kipli Mukigen, head of policy research and advocacy, KNCCI. Gentlemen, we get to this very important conversation a bit slightly late, but then again, we appreciate the fact that the conversation is on across the different parts of the country as to the Tax Law Amendment Bill 2024. In terms of even the proposals that you have presented as KNCCI, what does it look like when we are going to look at the document as is?
Thank you, Linda. So allow me to just start from the top. Every quarter, we publish something called the KNCCI Quarterly Business Barometer. So this is a report that measures the expectations of businesses in the coming quarter.
Yeah.
And in Q4, we asked businesses, we talked to more than 1,200 businesses across the country, and this report is actually available on our website. We asked businesses, what are some of the top challenges that you're expecting to affect your business in Q4? And top was high taxes and unfavorable regulatory environment. So this is a concern for businesses. Now, coming into the Tax Laws Amendment Bill, obviously, we had the Finance Bill of 2024, which never saw the light of day. Some proposals have been put in the Tax Laws Amendment, and also some of the proposals in the Finance Bill, and also what was about to be passed. Now, we've seen, I have to give it to the Committee of Finance and National Planning. for the work that they've done and they continue to do. Some of the positive things that we are seeing, and what was one of our recommendations in the Finance Bill of 2024 is, for example, the excise tax, the remission time for excise tax, particularly for manufacturers, being moved from 24 hours to about 1 month now. That is very important because it had given a lot of challenges, particularly on working capital constraints. One of the other positive things that we are seeing is if obviously the bill passes, we'll have some reprieve on the pay slips, which then means more disposable income. Even us as business people in the private sector, we've had a challenge because when disposable income is shrinked, people don't have the ability to buy products and services that we make and sell. So businesses then tend to be affected.
Right.
But even at that, we've still observed some challenges, some concerns in the bill, and we've continued to raise this with the Committee of Finance and National Planning at the National Assembly. And one of it is the introduction of withholding tax on the supply to public entities. This was actually proposed still in the Finance Bill of 2024. And we raised a concern. Businesses having the challenge that they're actually finding this particular clause as mischievous, that we're going to put a tax on any supply to public entities. Whereas currently the pending bill stock is more than 700 billion Kenya shillings, what government owes suppliers. So then businesses are like, why are we getting taxed and the government is not even paying us in the first place? So what we've proposed to the National Assembly is that let us put a hold on this particular provision. Let the government demonstrate the ability to pay on time first, before we even think about taxing business people on the supplies.
Just how forthcoming would this be? Because if we're going to put a halt or a halt to everything, with the consideration of perhaps chosen few, or perhaps a few individuals that understand the different clauses that have been incorporated in this document, and how then they align to them, they make these proposals. I mean, how much more can we stretch in terms of waiting? And even before it gets to that point, just how inclusive has the public consultation process been in terms of, getting to draft this bill before it gets to a point where now we are debating on a bill that has already been drafted?
Well, I think what we see outside here is the public participation that happens after the bill has already been published. However, I think CS Ndongo, before he left, I think he put out notices asking people to give him and the National Treasury ideas around how do we manage our resources, how we get to raise revenue through tax and things like those. So that then, that is what I think was considered by National Treasury before then having discussions with Parliament in terms of now coming up with a bill that is now being subjected to public participation. The bid for involvement of the public by the National Treasury is not as robust as we see it post the publication. So that is definitely an improvement area for the government. But like you asked, the government is quite in a hard place. So we were looking at the Q1 performance for July to October for 2024. And basically the government is saying we've missed our revenue targets by 42 billion. The other thing they're saying, we are also borrowing heavily from the local market in terms of the treasury bills that you see. So the picture that they are painting is we need to collect those taxes. We had you Gen Zs when you opposed the Finance Bill 2024. But now what do we do? Is it increase our borrowing, or do we come back to you to allow us to perhaps tax a little bit some more? And that's why we now have the Tax Laws Amendment Bill 2024 and the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill 2024.
All right, and I'll still ask this question. In the elements that we talk about the importance of government demonstrating their capability to make payments, and that we say if they're not going to do that, we take a halt until we are certain that they're capable of that. I mean, how then will this align with the broader fiscal and economic policy and goals of the country, bearing in mind that we have timelines? We're looking at scenarios where we talk about 2030. I mean, does it not deter us from the progresses that we perhaps would have envisioned to achieve?
Linda, allow me to refer to the Budget Outlook and Review paper, which I think was published maybe less than a month ago. And this speaks about the outlook of the budget of the financial year 2025 to 2026. If you look at that report, it proposes an increase of about 173 billion Kenya shillings to the size of the budget. So the budget is going to grow. The deficit, which is the gap between what we are supposed to spend vis-a-vis what we've raised, the deficit has increased by about 70 billion Kenya shillings.
Unfortunately.
Now, any Kenyan would expect that now that things are tough, maybe we should cut our budget, and if anything, we should cut on the deficit. But as you can see, it's also increasing. So that's why you find these rating agencies like Moody's, they continue to give a negative outlook just because of such an item. Even at a household level, if my income has reduced, if things are tightening, then I have to cut my expenditure. That's the natural thing to do. But aside from that, one of the things that as the Chamber of Commerce, we continue to insist to government is on the predictability of our tax regime. One of the concerns that we've seen, particularly with this bill as well, is an increase on the Railway Development Levy, the RDL. They are proposing to increase it by 1%, from 1.5% to 2.5%. Now, Railway Development Levy is what you pay alongside the import declaration fee at the point of entry of a product into Kenya. If you look at the Finance Act of 2023, it actually reduced the import declaration fee from 2% to 1.5%. But then, you know, less than 24 months to go, and there's already another change on the same tax. Now they are proposing to increase it from 1.5% to 2.5%. Now the challenge that this poses is, and one of the works that we do at the Chamber of Commerce is we support investors who want to come and you know, settle into the Kenyan market. And I have seen some investment models by investors for Railway Development Levy and import declaration fee. Some are working with an even safer rate of 5% because they just don't know what might happen. These consistent changes, constant changes, what it does is that it discourages, you cannot plan with certainty what will happen. And business is a game of return. It's a game of planning. I have to know when am I getting my return back, and so on and so forth, as to attract investment. And so what we are continuing to insist to government is that let us have predictability in that whole process of our tax policy.
In the same breath, if we're going to acknowledge that this then will impact businesses, especially the SMEs, and in a negative way, and we're also going to acknowledge that perhaps then this will discourage foreign investment. I am curious to understand, and I'm sure most of the Kenyans then would be curious to understand, why do you suppose, you know, or what could have prompted the need for these amendments by the government, perhaps, you know, and what did they, you know, aim to achieve with all this? And are there any chances at all that there are some certain industries and other sectors that are likely to benefit out of it?
It's an interesting question. We'll end with the part for benefit, because that's quite not much. Yeah. But when you think about it, when we had Finance Bill 2024, what the government said is that they were aiming at collecting around 300 and so billion Kenya shillings through the tax measures that were in Finance Bill 2024. So come now the Tax Laws Amendment Bill and the Tax Procedures Bill, and what the government is saying is we have thought about the budget and perhaps reduced a little bit. I think it was 4-point-something trillion in terms of expenditure. We are now around 3.8 trillion, if I'm not wrong. So kind of telling us we are also reducing our expenditure. But at the same time, we want to collect 173 billion from these tax laws amendment bills that we now have. So I guess the question is more towards, and I think this is what we've been asking even in the committee hearings that are going on, is when do we then start focusing on the expenditure side rather than the tax side? Because it appears, it seems that there's a lot of now taxpayer apathy around just contributing more taxes and more taxes and more taxes. Guys are getting tired. Kigen speaks to predictability and the changes. Guys are getting tired. So at what time do we then say we need to cut wastage of public resources? We need austerity measures in the government, and we want that talk to be seen in the implementation by the top government officials, right to the civil servant at the lowest level. So that then if we are able to have some form of fiscal consolidation, some form of using our monies properly, then we don't need to then focus on taxes every time. I think I was appearing in the committee yesterday when the Kenya Association of Manufacturers were also doing their presentation. And one of their members was actually saying, if the government is admitting that we lose 2 billion Kenya shillings to corruption every day, if you multiply by 365 days, you're talking about 30 billion Kenya shillings. You have a finance tax laws amendment bill that wants to raise 173. You can imagine if you were to just cut that corruption or wastage through corruption just by half, you actually don't need this tax laws amendment bill. So that's where we need to be. Then to the positive side, who gets to benefit? I've seen some reduction of rates, for example, for guys doing diapers. There's a proposal to kind of reduce how much they are paying when they are bringing inputs for manufacture, which is a positive thing. I've seen an extension of the tax amnesty program, basically to allow people who have principal tax liabilities to self-disclose to KRA in exchange for a waiver of penalties and interest. So definitely somebody will benefit there, and a lot will benefit. KRA collected about 43 billion from that initiative last year. What is the other positive that I see? For employees, of course, we all benefit because of what we are seeing in terms of if you are contributing to a pension, what was allowable was a limit of up to 20,000. So if your employer gives you some money for pension and also save for yourself for pension, up to 20,000 per month was an allowable deduction, tax-free. But now they're increasing that to 30,000 per month, translating to 30,000 times 12, 360,000 in a year. If your employer was providing you meals, and the current law says that it is capped, that meal benefit is capped to 4,000 per employee per month. But now if they're proposing to increase it to 5,000 per employee per month. So we all benefit in that regard. So there are actually positive things that we could mention.
All right, and speaking of that, then this perhaps exacerbates the tax burden to the citizens as well as businesses, from what I hear or from what it is that I read. What are some of the measures that you have proposed, perhaps if any, in terms of making sure that then we improve on the element of collection or compliance as well as reduce evasion? Because those are some of the biggest, concerns that we have in terms of collection of taxes.
Thank you, Linda. So one of the things that we've obviously proposed to government, and we continue to employ government on this, is you don't need to, you don't even need to have austerity measures, and you don't even need to to raise taxes. Just in line with what my colleague has said, if we can stop the embezzlement in government, there is no need for austerity measures which government agencies are facing at the moment. But that is the hard stuff. And very few people want to do the hard stuff, because cutting down on corruption and embezzlement is hard. But we have to bite the bullet at some point and actually decide what we want to do with our country. Even at that, just speaking on the taxpayers' burden, the other thing that we employ on government is you don't have to raise taxes to raise revenue, to increase revenue. Like it's not always a must that you increase the tax rate, and you're going to have directly increased tax revenues. And if you look at the tax law amendment bill, one of the proposals is to increase excise duty on telephone and internet services. Now, today you can actually argue that internet is the fifth factor of production. And it is the, the horizontal infrastructure that allows for many businesses and enterprises to survive. And we've proposed to the committee that let us hold it at 15% where it is at the moment. Because if you look at what internet does on a day-to-day basis for Kenyans and businesses, border riders who deliver food, they use internet all through to check them up.
Yeah.
You've got businesses, young people who sell on social media, Instagram, WhatsApp. They depend on this as their means of reaching customers. And you also find government services like e-citizen. You need internet to access them. So this is an underlying infrastructure. So when we raise this, we are going to have a lot of shifts in the cost of doing business. And even at that, just speaking on the digital and technological aspect, there's the digital service tax, which now this proposal wants to transfer it to the significant economic presence tax, in line with some OECD requirements, which is totally fine. But we have a challenge with the rate. So currently it's 1.5%, but they want to increase that to an effective rate of 3%. That is a 100% hike. Now, digital service tax came in January of 2021. So you're looking at about, what, 3 years, about 36 months. Again, predictability of the tax regime, we want to change the rate. And if you look at digital service tax, if you look at, and I mean, most of the businesses in the digital space, look at the ride-hailing hubs, look at the e-commerce platforms, look at the quick commerce platforms. We have one of our valued members, they've been in the market for about 6 years. $60 million down the line, they're still on the runway. They're not broken even. Majority of these digital businesses are actually still in the investment phase. So we should not be raising the taxes at the moment. Let them go through the investment phase. I mean, companies like Facebook, they were in an investment phase for more than 7 years. Now they're in the reaping stage. Now you can tax them.
How much more for the informal sector, which also is quite a huge driver of the economy?
Just quickly on the informal sector before my colleagues comes in. One of the reasons why the informal sector has refused to go formal is because of
there are chances for them to.
It's because of high taxation and also the relationship that government has towards informal businesses, how they handle them towards that transition. So we also have to provide a soft landing so that business people in the informal sector are encouraged to see why I should move ahead and formally register my business.
Interesting. And the regional comparisons are crucial to this. We are being constantly reminded that we stay woke. Tanzania is coming and coming big, and they're going to overtake you. Uganda is coming and coming big. They're going to overtake you. If we're going to look at this regime of tax and the proposals that have been made and look at the East African community and the countries, what do you make of it? What are the chances that we stay tall?
Well, this is a sad reality, because what we have seen, for example, and we've acted for some of investors in this country, we have seen some sudden shift of focus to Tanzania.
Right.
I will not speak about the other countries. And the reason for that is, first, they give you a very good tax holiday. So they tell you, come invest into a country, put in about 200 million Kenya shillings, equivalent, for example. For as long as you stay in this country for a period of time, we will not tax you. Just put in the investment. We'll also give you free land to be able to put in, if you want to put in a manufacturing plant, etc., so that then you can do your business in our country, as opposed to that other East African country, and in that case, they're referring to Kenya. Yeah? So with that kind of shift, and if you hear it from investors, then you know there's a problem.
There's a problem.
You know there's a problem. So does it necessarily mean that the other countries in East Africa perhaps are taxing their people less? Maybe not, but maybe the frequency of changes in tax in those other countries is not as much as we're having it in our country. So it's making the business environment a little bit unpredictable for someone who wants to come put in their money, and they want to know, over a 5-year period, I have at least some stability in the tax environment. And that is what we were pushing for when we were looking at the national tax policy, which provides that 5-year gap in terms of tax changes. But that policy was being discussed this year, I think, in Parliament. And then it was pushed back to Treasury for them to make some changes. But even before Treasury and Parliament, agree on this particular document, already tax changes.
All right.
In fact, I was discussing with Kigen a while back and wondering, will we see another finance bill 2025? And I was telling, I can't assure you, because where we are, I expect anything.
Interesting. In all that, this is our business, and therefore we must contribute to it and hope that then our contributions make sense and are put to consideration. What would be your recommendation to the government such that we then get to have a win-win scenario where the government and the taxpayers both get to benefit?
Linda, first of all, I have to agree with my colleague. I hope, and I mean, CS Mbadi has spoken about this a number of times.
Yeah. I
hope we don't have a finance bill, another
2025.
one in 2025, because
right.
that will be like 2 finance bills in a span of 6 months. I mean,
okay.
Seriously. I would like to say that the fiscal pressures are being felt, right? We've got a huge debt stock. We're trying to pay that. We're trying to maximize revenue. So I would like to employ government that let us not deepen our tax base. By deepening tax base, that is increasing tax rates of existing taxes in a bid to try and collect more, to go back and pay the debts. What we are saying is, let us do the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Let us broaden the tax base instead of deepening it.
All right, as we sum it up, I know we are telling them, please address graft and corruption and all that. How do we get to advise them to focus on, working on transparency, accountability, so that they can get to utilize the revenue that has been generated from these taxes?
You see, at the end of the day, what would motivate you and I to even pay more tax is if we are satisfied that the money that we are contributing towards taxes is being utilized properly. So the transparency around how our money is being spent, and perhaps even, giving an explainer, you gave us this much in terms of taxes. We have prioritized project 1, 2, 3, which will be directly funded by your taxes. Come end of the year, we report to you as the taxpayer. We tell you this is the much we're able to collect. We have actually utilized this money here, and you can be able to see where your money is going. I think that change of story will perhaps change also the time, the collection that this government is getting. And finally, any increase in tax or reduction has to be based on research and evidence. So that the person suggesting a tax increase or decrease is actually sitting with an economist, is actually sitting with someone on the ground. So that when, for example, you decide that we are going to put excise duty on importing transformers, has that person sat down with, say, KPLC, and you on the ground, who if my transformer is stolen or broken down, how much time will they take to even replace it? So that tells you that there's a shortage of those transformers. But someone on the other side, on the revenue side, is saying, let's target this thing and get excise duty out of imported transformers. Does that help the situation? So if you collect revenue out of those imported transformers, how does that translate to more revenue for the government on other sides? And will it be even efficient in that place? We could talk more about national parks and the VATs and all of that. But there is a missing link between raising the revenue vis-a-vis the impact to the economy.
Well said, gentlemen. And like you rightfully say, we can talk until the cows come back home. But we certainly hope that even in that small moment where we get to articulate these matters, then they are put to consideration. Alex Kanyi, the last speaker, tax expert, CDH Kenya, thank you so much. As well as Kiplimo Kigen, Head of Policy Research and Advocacy, KNCCI. Gentlemen, I know this was quite fast, but we appreciate that, you stayed long with us so that we can speak to these matters that are of importance to the people of Kenya. It's at this point that we get to close the marketplace and the daily report, as I look forward to see you again. Thank you so much for always keeping it TV47. My name is Linda Alela. Our sign language interpreter on the other end is Rhoda Nyamai. Do have yourself a beautiful night ahead. Bye-bye.